Welcome back from the break. I'm super excited to introduce you to the next portion. It is such an honor to introduce Dietrich Rogge, founder of Rockstone in Rockstone, Ethiopia. If you don't know already, Rockstone is the mastermind behind Kefita, which is the 21-story, 100-unit luxury apartment building currently under construction in the Signal neighborhood of Addis Ababa. So Dietrich, I will pass it on to you so that you can illuminate us on everything that you're doing here in Ethiopia.
Many thanks, Naya, to this wonderful, nice introduction, and also many thanks to you, Christoph, and all the panelists for this wonderful conference so far, where I gained a lot of insights, and I'm very happy to be part of this conference and also speak to all of you, both in Addis and in London, and as I understand, around the world, which I find fascinating for all of us to have managed at least one positive of COVID, I guess. And quick question from my side. I understood there is a video coming, so I pause now if the video should start, and maybe then I continue speaking. Otherwise, if I don't hear anything after 5 seconds, then I continue. Before running you through my presentation, let me also make a few introductory remarks here, which is important for me based on the panel discussions I've heard here today, and give you a little context of what I talk about, where I lead you through. And I must also how amazed I was at all the different discussions I've heard so far in the panelists. So Rockstone made the choice actually 4 years ago to enter to the African continent. And we have studied together with friends and advisors what country we should enter into. And the analysis actually for myself and for the company fairly quickly came to Ethiopia. And it became clearer and clearer that Ethiopia poses an enormous opportunity, just as we have learned and heard from all the panelists here. And I have just could continue saying that we don't regret this choice at all. And we've been here now for 2.5 years, and it's an amazing journey. What were the main reasons to come here? From a real estate point, obviously, one, which we have already heard from the colleagues of Knight and Frank, was number one, lack of quality product, lack of trust, and also lack of innovation. We did arrive in 2019. Yes, to make that remark also to you, Addis, it's been tough. To also make that remark to you, Philippe. Sadly, I have more than 2 competitors, but that's fine in my industry, probably. Let me also say, I have not regretted it a single day. It's been a tough ride, but it's enormous to have been here. And I have to say that I have certainly become a very personal friend of the country and all the people I have met over these years. So we are here to stay and roll out the project we are having here, and many, many projects are to come. I'll now walk you through our first project, Kefita, because that project probably very well summarizes and gives you an idea about the vision we have for what projects we want to do and where we want to excel in the current Ethiopian real estate market, and what is laying the foundation for us to become one of the leaders in the Ethiopian real estate market. And after having done that, there is ample time for Q&A, obviously, and I'm happy to receive questions and answer these along the way. Now, we start here just with this executive summary, obviously, where we are. And I think we have heard some of these issues here already, but that is something which gives you, I think, a pretty good idea and understanding where we started, which parts of it I have already mentioned us entering here in 2019, having studied the market extensively, we have analyzed what product is needed, that there is a lack of product in the higher end segment, which is also sustainable product, a high quality product, and also a product which caters to the real needs of the residents of Addis Ababa, but also the huge international community. What we have envisioned to do as our first project now is a 20-floor scheme with 100 apartments. It has parking, obviously. We have a hotel-like amenities floor like you're used to in other parts of the world, and that together with high quality and high quality standards also, because that's one part of know-how transfer, also what we are bringing to Addis, and which we are building together with our local team, because we as Rockstone envision to create a strong local team, which we have done already over the last 2 years. It'll be interesting for you to see where we are. We are on the border of the neighborhoods of Constances and Signal, which is a very deliberate choice between Bole up to the north of the city in the mountains, close to the embassy. So it's a 10-minute drive from the Bole CBD district, very close to all the embassies, with the proximity to housing, with the proximity to schools, with the proximity to other recreational facilities such as Mount Yeka and others. The retail investment opportunity is something which, from our perspective, is driving currently why people invest into apartments. Obviously, as we heard earlier in the panel discussion, there's a real lack of investment opportunities in Ethiopia, certainly for the retail investors. Real estate is a very attractive asset class, and that is driven also from the opportunity to get attractive returns, but also dollarized returns, given that there is a strong US dollar demand from all the experts in the market here. And that's what we are building upon our first project, Kefita. And Kefita also gives you an understanding, because Kefita is Amharic for reach new heights or heights. And that is also sort of the aspiration for what we're doing here. In terms of execution, execution is one key aspect here, which we try to excel at, because that is to some extent lacking in the market for many reasons, not because people want to, but because there are obstacles which you need to overcome. Therefore, we started and waited to actually go public and go to market until we really have in place what you need to have, which is building permit, which we received last year already. We started construction Q1 of this year, and now we are certain that we can deliver Kefita the first half of 23. And that's why we are now launching our pre-sales to only sell a smaller portion of the project actually to first set of preferred listed and interested customers, and then actually we may wait until the project is completed in 2023 to continue. That gives you already a good overview of what the project is. I'll now lead you fairly quickly through a number of impressions and slides so that you get a deeper understanding of what Kefita stands for. And I repeat some of the main theses I have talked about. I think that first picture here gives you an idea of what we are doing. Why have I put this up front? We try to create a very authentic piece of architecture in Addis Ababa, not something which we bring in from Germany or from Europe or from the US or elsewhere. We have created a very cross-boundary international team, but which is all aligned along the vision of creating an authentic piece of Ethiopian real estate. And I hope this picture, which comes from many images we have sort of come about in Ethiopia from fabrics and woven textiles, which we have sort of implemented here in that design. And I hope that brings that across already to some extent. Next to the green aspect, and sustainability is part of the innovation which we want to bring to the market. Let me quickly bring you to the team. That's very, very important, because this is always a team effort. It's not a single person. It's not Rockstone. It's a whole team. So Rockstone, I have introduced to you fairly quickly. We are a real estate developer out of Germany. We have offices in 3 European countries, and Africa is deliberately our first choice as our first office in Ethiopia, here in Addis Ababa, where we want to excel over the next 5 to 10 years to become one of the leaders of the real estate industry here in the market. Next to Rockstone, we have partnered together with Cerberus. Cerberus, as you were introduced earlier in the discussions in the panels, is one premier leader in the financial services industry around the world. We are very happy to have them on board, because the partnership with them ensures us to have a very stable, trusted and clear product which will be delivered. At the same time, it is clear to everyone, including buyers, that we will roll out much more to come apart from the project we're currently doing. We firmly believe that a good team up is local, and therefore we have teamed up with one of the premier design and architecture firms in Addis Ababa, which is Big R, and they're our strong partner here as the local architecture engineering project management company, which complements our local team of around 10 professionals currently, with whom together we do that project. There are many others which I haven't named yet, but these are the key members I want to bring across, because always, as we heard throughout all the panel discussions, this is all teamwork, and I think we've assembled a great team which can roll out much more to come. The business case, I think we've heard a lot about the business case. Again, it's catered around, as I said in my introductory remarks, lack of quality product, lack of trust in the market participants and people to deliver on time and on quality, and also certainly lack of the funds available to purchase such assets. And that together is what brought us into Ethiopia and to Addis Ababa, as I said, to really create quality products which are delivered on time and which are innovative, and which therefore, and that is a key aspect which I want to bring across, which increase over time in its value, because real estate should increase over time in its value. And the two determinant factors to do so are location, well, that's one factor, but the other thing is quality product and long-term quality, which sustains and doesn't deteriorate over time. And that is not always the case from the products I have seen around town, but that is something which we certainly want to show and deliver as Kefita. On the supply dynamics, I don't want to walk you too much to the numbers because we heard a lot about it. Bottom line is there's a huge mismatch between supply and demand in Addis Ababa for many reasons, which we as a team believe we can solve fairly well. Location is something I want to walk you fairly quickly through. We made the deliberate choice to go into the neighborhood of the border between Signal and Kastancis, which is between Bole in the CBD district and the embassies on the bottom of Mount Yeka, which is 10 minutes essentially from Bole CBD district. Why? Because it is very one of the oldest neighborhoods actually in Addis Ababa. It has very strong institutions such as most of the embassies. That's why we also call and refer to it off Embassy Road. It has most of the huge and international schools, and it also has existing stock of residential neighborhood. And part of what we do as real estate developers, we analyze cities and we try to understand how cities will develop over the next 10 years. And we have found and strongly believe that part of the city, which is at the foot of the mountains and is sort of on the high point of the cities, these are usually parts of the cities which will outperform other parts of the cities, driven also by superior infrastructure, which we know is set to be planned and to be executed in the next couple of years. And in extremely close proximity to Bole CBD and all the other parts. That is what we deliberately chose, and that's part of what we try to bring in as Rockstone, as a developer, and analyzing what we're doing here. This sort of summarizes again how we walk through, because that brings across to you how we conceptually try to very strongly understand where we go. We want to make sure we make deliberate choices, right? We don't sort of get offered some plot or go somewhere. We really want to understand cities, how they will develop over the next 10 years, and then make a choice where we think is a best placed product or location for a project and how it needs to be assembled and put together. That's why we chose the location where we are for Kefita. This summarizes this, I think, fairly well. I think I talked about it a little bit here. These are just a few images of where we are. I think you can fairly easily see we are close to the ridge line, to the mountain lines, with all the embassies, the Russian, the Kenyans, and the British nearby, the French and the Germans not far further away, and that sort of sets the groundwork for where we are. Here you also see the image of the expanding financial district of Addis, which, as we all know, is to the the west of the CBD of Mesco Square. That's what I would usually refer to as sort of one main point of the city, Mesco Square, where we are also physically right now today here at the Hyatt Hotel and having that conference here, obviously. And here also again summarizes, I think, the proximity, as I said, in terms of embassies and schools, just highlighting again where we are. Here a few other benchmarks. Now, let me jump to the building. I hope that's probably the most important thing also in terms of imagery. That picture I did show to you before. Here's a little bit of research, again, what we did to understand what kind of architecture we wanted to have. And based on the international team, Orko Sanchez, our Kenyan Spanish lead architect, together with Bigar, our local partner, in envisioning the different architectures we would like to foresee. A big part is also sustainability, green housing. That is something we all talk about, as you all know, in many parts of the world. It is also being talked about a lot here in Addis in Ethiopia. It is probably not delivered or executed nearly as much. And it is part of what we bring to the table when we say we want to be leaders in innovation and technology coming to Addis. So we want to, I always say, be best in class. We want to look at the certain aspects of fire, safety, environmental friendliness, name others. That's where we really want to excel and be better than our peer group in the A-class market. And therefore, sort of sustainability is a key issue. And ultimately, it also does preserve value and actually helps to increase value for real estate. Here we walk you a little bit conceptually through how we look at projects and how we come up with a design. I think one takeaway here I want to bring across is one reason why we're here also in Addis is actually the great climate, right? The great climate caters to a very sustainable low carbon footprint of buildings in terms of its consumption, but also in terms of its built environment. And you can use the natural ventilation of the city very well if it is catered to the architecture and to the buildings. What we have actually done is we have built a building where you have huge naturally ventilated courtyards in the building. Therefore, all our apartments have two sides with natural air, so you have the flow through these apartments. And that is pretty rare, but I think it's very intuitive why that is something which helps to have a better quality of life in these apartments, in these buildings. And that's why we wanted to bring this across to you conceptually. This is again a summary picture of the whole project of Kefita, again, Amharic for heights, so trying to be very authentic in terms of what we deliver, so it's not a random piece of real estate in Addis. A key piece I wanted to bring across here is that we, next to parking, and parking will become more and more of an issue, so you need to have parking in your projects. We do have this here. Next to that, we have what we call an amenities floor. It's a hotel-like floor on the 4th floor of the building, which at that height already gives you a great overview of the city, being on top of the city already close to the mountain ridge. At the same time, being on the 4th floor, it gives you already amazing views. And the apartments actually only start going from there to the top floor for the following 17 floors. I think that is conceptually something which is easy to be understood. By the way, that is something which I will also say at the end, those of you who are in Addis and are happily invited to come to an open house tomorrow also on site from 9 to 12 o'clock. And why I'm saying this now, because we have now just reached that Kefita floor actually in terms of building. You can stand up there and see actually what amazing views just start to be shown. But this is sort of conceptually speaking what we're doing when we are building Kefita here. The amenities floor, I just mentioned it. Here's sort of a layout of this plan again. Without sort of repeating everything which you can read here yourself, essentially look at it as pretty much like a hotel kind of common services floor, with all sorts of services which you as a private resident would like to have, but organized on one floor with specific services where you can go to in terms of sports, childcare facilities, or also private function and or a drink. Last but not least, sports. Here we have a few imageries. You know, renders, these wells are fantastic because it brings across very well for a project which is being built, the vision and the clear understanding what we want to create. And I think these imageries speak for themselves, hopefully. They show you what we want to do. That is an image here of the entrance of the Kefita floor, of the amenities floor, which we show you where you enter the building, where you have entered the building, and where you then go onto the stairs into the lift and then onto your apartments. Here's another picture that sort of is a little more close up of the large render you've seen already. It shows you a very characteristic architecture, different materials, not too diverse, but clearly a strong sense of green technology and sustainable products to be used. And here is another imagery which gives you the feel and look and feel of what the courtyards are about. Remember again the courtyards where we have the natural flow of ventilation between the apartments in the middle of two parts of the building, where you walk through then to enter also your apartment, but which gives a wonderful flow of fresh air, which gives a better quality of life in the apartments once you enter that. That's last not least parking. So parking is needed. There's also a landing deck here for the parking, where you then actually go upstairs to your Kefita floor entrance area. Here are a few images also of the apartments. So very clear colors, materials used, a good finishing design, not over-engineered, not over-designed, but very clear, good visibility to the outside, a good proportion between windows and open and closed spaces of the facade. And that is sort of the kind of interior vision also we bring to the market. The apartments which we are selling, also understanding obviously from what is needed, oftentimes together also with helper's room, which is customary, as we all know, in many parts of the city and in Africa, and obviously clear with kitchen, obviously with cabinets, and also completely done bathrooms, etc., and outdoor spaces, because obviously outdoor spaces is a huge issue. Well, last not least here, obviously even a huge penthouse. I'll leave it for your own imagery to look at that. That is something I'm very proud of. Actually, we just received news 3 days ago, and we applied. I talked a lot here, obviously now. We also talked to others, but we said, look, let's also compete with others. Let's see what others think about Kefita, and let's see if we do compete well with all the other projects there. And I'm very, very happy to be known, or to know, that we were told 3 or 4 days ago actually that we were awarded the African Property Award this year, which I think is great as a sort of proof of concept for most of these of you listening and being here in Addis and or London. Best in class, I leave it to you to go through here and read what it says, but best in class is really the headline narrative for what we're doing, and that we want to excel at specific parts of the design and the services of the building to be better at, and having really understood what is able to deliver here and what we want to do in the project, and on all parts of the construction, from the architecture to the MVP to the services here. Well, that's just a very recent picture. I've just mentioned it. The picture was taken yesterday. Bear in mind, we started construction in April. I think most of you know, around the world, I would argue, but I would say certainly here also in Addis, if you start construction in April with underground construction coming out and now being on the 5th floor, it gives you a clear understanding that things seem to be according to schedule. And they do. And that's why we show the picture now, and that's why we only show it now. Why does that work, and why are we able to do this? I think a few issues, a few reasons for this. Number one, I think we created a very good team. It's a big team effort. And number two, we really completed the entire design and only started construction then. There are many other issues to tell you why that's the case, but we try to understand what needs to be in place to be able to execute on time and on schedule and on quality. I think this is a pretty good testament, having just started in April. As I said, now here we come to an end. That's the only error in the presentation. So the open house, if you want to come, already starts from 9 to 12 tomorrow morning. We would love to see you there on site, so you can have a view yourself. Otherwise, please feel free to contact us at any time. And even if you're not interested in Kefita, please do also contact us, because maybe the second or third project may be interesting to you. So that's from my side. Many, many thanks to all of you around the world and here in Addis as well as in London. Thank you. Back to you, Naya. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dietrich, and hello back to everyone. One of the things that I'd like to say, which I'm very proud of, is I'm actually one of the first buyers of Kefita. And the reason I did that is because I live in Washington, D.C. Much like Addis, who was on the panel earlier, I left Ethiopia when I was 7 years old. I started coming back in 2007. And all the while I was trying to figure out, how do I come back to my birth country and maintain the same lifestyle that I'm accustomed to in the United States. And last summer, I discovered Kefita through the internet. And I decided, you know what, this basically allows me to replicate my lifestyle that I've been accustomed to the last 25, 26 years. So why don't I buy into the building and continue my lifestyle from the United States into Ethiopia? So thank you, Dietrich. Thank you, Rockstone. And I'm super excited about Kefita. And